The glass walls of Orion Apex Tower didn't merely reflect the city skyline, they judged it. They loomed like a silent tribunal of wealth and power, casting cold reflections onto everyone who dared walk inside. The lobby smelled of polished marble, expensive cologne, and quiet intimidation. Every footstep echoed with the unspoken rule of the place. Only the powerful mattered here. At the center of it all, behind a sleek obsidian reception desk on the 42nd floor, stood Amara Lewis. She was 27 years old, with calm, intelligent eyes that almost no one noticed because people like her were trained to be unseen. Her posture was perfect, her voice polite, her expression neutral. She wore sensible black flats that were 3 years old, a quiet rebellion in an office where junior assistants wore designer heels worth more than her monthly rent. Amara wasn't part of the inner circle. She wasn't Ivy League polished. She wasn't someone's niece. She wasn't someone's girlfriend. She was just the secretary. And worse, she was black, in a place where diversity existed only on the website. To the executives, she was furniture that answered phones. "Did you see what she brought for lunch again?" The voice cut through the open office like a blade. It belonged to Vanessa Crow, senior executive assistant, social queen of the floor, and self-appointed gatekeeper of relevance. She leaned against the espresso machine, latte in hand, flanked by 2 younger assistants who laughed on cue. "Leftover stew," Vanessa continued, loudly enough to travel. "The whole break room smells like poor choices." The girls giggled. Amara didn't look up. She kept typing. She had learned long ago that reacting only fed cruelty. Silence was her armor, stillness her survival. Vanessa wasn't done. "Some people just don't understand the aesthetic of corporate life. Mr. Park hates clever. He hates mess." At the mention of Ethan Park, the room went colder. Ethan Park, the CEO of Orion Apex, a man spoken about in hushed tones, a ghost in a tailored suit, always surrounded by security that looked more military than corporate. Rumors followed him like shadows. Some said his family controlled half the shipping routes in the Pacific. Others whispered darker things about blood-soaked origins washed clean by money and legitimacy. Amara had seen him once, from far away, a still silhouette, a predator at rest. She wasn't afraid of his power. She was afraid of losing her job. That paycheck paid her late mother's hospital bills. That job was the thin line between survival and collapse. Then, ding, the elevator doors slid open. But it wasn't an executive who stepped out. It was an old woman, tiny, frail, bent slightly under the weight of age. She wore a gray janitor uniform that hung loosely on her thin frame and pushed a squeaking cleaning cart that looked heavier than she was. Her hair was pulled into a tight gray bun, her face deeply lined by years of hardship. The entire floor went silent. Cleaning crews worked at night, unseen, erased before the executives arrived. Seeing one now was a violation. The old woman stopped in the hallway, confused. She squinted at the English signs on the walls, clearly unable to read them. Her hands trembled slightly on the cart handle. Vanessa scoffed. "You've got to be kidding me. Does security just let anyone in now?" Laughter followed. No one moved. No one helped. The old woman tried to push forward, but one wheel caught on a thick designer rug. The cart tipped dangerously, a bucket of soapy water sloshing toward the edge. She gasped, and before anyone else could react, Amara stood up. She didn't think, she didn't calculate, she just moved. She crossed the floor in long, quiet strides and grabbed the cart just before it toppled over. "Here," Amara said softly. "I've got it." The old woman flinched, then looked up. Her eyes were sharp, observant, not weak at all. Then the moment passed. "Thank you," the woman said in a thick accent, bowing her head slightly. "Wheel, bad." "It's okay," Amara smiled gently. "This rug catches everyone. Where are you heading?" "Pantry," the woman pointed. "Need water." "I'll walk you," Amara replied. Vanessa's voice snapped through the air like poison. Amara, the phones are ringing. We don't pay you to escort the help. Amara turned calmly. I'm on my break, and she's not the help. She's a person. She took the cart and started walking. My name's Amara. The woman smiled, just barely. I am Mrs. Sun. Behind them, the whispers erupted again. Trash helping trash. Birds of a feather. Amara heard it. Mrs. Sun heard it too. But as they turned the corner, something strange happened. The trembling in Mrs. Sun's hands stopped. Her back straightened, just a little, and a thoughtful smile crossed her face, one that looked less like gratitude and more like recognition.
Over the next 2 weeks, something unexpected took root on the 42nd floor. Orion Apex moved at its usual brutal speed. Contracts signed in silence, millions shifted with a handshake, careers ended with a single email. But at 12:30 p.m., inside a narrow, windowless pantry tucked behind the vending machines, time slowed. That's when Mrs. Sun appeared. Officially, she was there to empty trash bins or wipe counters. Unofficially, she waited. For Amara. It started with an orange. Amara had been peeling it when she noticed Mrs. Sun watching quietly from the doorway. The old woman looked pale that day, her shoulders slumped, her energy low. Without thinking, Amara split the orange in half and held out the larger piece. Mrs. Sun hesitated. Her eyes studied the fruit like it might be a trap. Then she accepted it with both hands. That became their ritual. Amara began bringing extra food, simple, home-cooked meals packed in worn plastic containers, rice seasoned with care, grilled chicken, steamed vegetables. Not fancy, but made with intention. They sat on 2 folding chairs hidden behind the machines, invisible to the world that looked down on them. You eat too little, Mrs. Sun said one afternoon, poking Amara's rice gently with a fork. Young woman needs strength. This place, she waved toward the glass walls, it eats people. Amara laughed softly. You're not wrong. I've learned to stretch things. My mom taught me how. Your mother, Mrs. Sun said carefully. She proud? She was, Amara replied, her smile fading. She passed last year. Medical bills were heavy. That's why I stay here. The insurance, the paycheck. Even if the people are... She stopped herself. Cruel, Mrs. Sun finished calmly. Amara looked up, surprised. They are cruel because they are small, Mrs. Sun continued. Small dogs bark loudest. Maybe, Amara sighed, but small dogs still bite. She hesitated, then added quietly, Vanessa's been trying to get me fired. She wants her college friend at the desk, says I don't fit the image. For a brief moment, the old woman changed. The frailty vanished. Her jaw tightened, her eyes hardened, dark, sharp, dangerous. Vanessa, Mrs. Sun repeated slowly. She hides my files, spills coffee and makes me clean it up. Petty things. I can handle it. My dad used to say, dignity is what you have when no one is watching. Mrs. Sun studied her for a long moment. Then she placed a rough, calloused hand over Amara's. Your father was wise, Mrs. Sun said. Dignity is expensive, rare currency. Most people here, she gestured toward the door, they are bankrupt. Amara smiled, trying to lighten the mood. What about you, Mrs. Sun? Family? The old woman grew still. I have a son, she said quietly. Very busy, works too hard, thinks he runs the world. Does he know you work here? Mrs. Sun chuckled dryly. He thinks I am retired, playing bingo, knitting. A mischievous spark lit her eyes. He forgets who changed his diapers. Amara laughed. He sounds successful. Success is dangerous, Mrs. Sun murmured. It attracts snakes. The pantry door slammed open. Vanessa stood there, mug in hand, eyes sharp with contempt. Oh my God, are we running a soup kitchen now? She turned to Amara. Mr. Park's team asked for the quarterly reports, the ones I told you to print 2 hours ago. I printed them. Amara stood quickly. They're on your desk. Well, they're not there, Vanessa lied smoothly, so either you're incompetent or you're lying. Her gaze flicked to Mrs. Sun. Stop feeding stray animals and get back to work. She turned and left. The room fell silent. Then, crack. The plastic fork snapped in Mrs. Sun's hand. She will learn, the old woman whispered. The voice didn't belong to a cleaner. It belonged to someone who issued orders that ruined lives. The storm approaches. 3 days later, the tension in the building shifted. The big boss was coming. Not for a walkthrough, for the signing of the Jade Harbor contract, a multi-billion-dollar deal that would secure Orion Apex's dominance across Asia. Security tripled. Executives panicked. Vanessa transformed into a tyrant. Amara was buried under last-minute work. Stay out of sight, Vanessa hissed that morning. We need a specific look today. At 1:45 p.m., Amara stacked the heavy binders onto a trolley. She checked herself in the reflection. Simple blouse, dark skirt, hair pulled back. Professional, invisible. As she rolled the trolley down the hall, Vanessa stepped out of the executive restroom. I'll take those, Vanessa said, grabbing the binders. I need to set them up, Amara replied, holding on. She twisted her wrist. The binders fell. Papers exploded across the marble floor. Oh no, Vanessa gasped theatrically. 10 minutes to the meeting. She leaned in close. Who's gonna believe you? She walked away. Amara dropped to her knees, panic flooding her chest. Then, a hand reached down. Mrs. Sun. Without a word, she began sorting. Fast, precise, terrifyingly efficient. Page 12 after 11. Move. In 5 minutes, the binders were rebuilt. Go, Mrs. Sun said, fixing Amara's collar. Head high. As Amara left, Mrs. Sun pulled out a sleek black phone. She typed one message. Let them in. I'm watching.
The boardroom felt less like a meeting space and more like a courtroom. A long mahogany table stretched beneath cold white lights. On one side sat the Jade Harbor delegation, unreadable and silent. On the other, Orion Apex executives sat stiff-backed, sweat hidden beneath tailored suits. At the head of the table sat Ethan Park, younger than most expected, early 30s, face carved from discipline and restraint, a man who looked bored only because nothing in the room scared him. Vanessa stood beside him, pouring water into his crystal glass like a loyal servant guarding her throne. The heavy doors opened. Amara stepped in. Her heart pounded, but her shoulders were back. I have the files, Mr. Park, she said. Vanessa's eyes widened. She had expected Amara crying in the hallway. As Amara distributed the binders, Vanessa hissed, Give them to me. I've got it, Amara replied quietly, stepping past her. Ethan opened his binder. He flipped one page, then stopped. From between the documents, he pulled out a yellow sticky note. His expression changed. Not anger, not confusion, recognition. He stared at the handwriting, jagged, deliberate, unmistakable. Slowly, he looked up at Amara. Where did you get this? Ethan asked. The room went silent. Vanessa stepped in quickly. Sir, the secretary is careless. If there's trash in the file, it's her fault. I asked her, Ethan said calmly. Amara swallowed. It's mine. Personal notes. Vanessa laughed. She dropped the binders. She's clumsy. Ethan unfolded the note. Written in private Korean, the kind only one person in the world ever used with him. She is the only one with a spine. Watch her. Ethan closed the binder. Bring me the cleaning woman, he said. Vanessa blinked.
Sir? The cleaner, Ethan repeated, voice dropping. Now. Minutes later, Mrs. Sun was escorted in, still in her gray uniform, still holding a cleaning rag. Vanessa scoffed. This is her. I was planning to reassign her. Ethan stood. Then, the most powerful man in the room dropped to his knees. Mother, he said softly. The world stopped. The Jade Harbor chairman stood and bowed deeply. Vanessa's face drained of color. Madame Sun placed a hand on her son's head. You have a rat problem, she said, pointing at Vanessa. She spilled the papers. She mocks the weak. Then she turned to Amara. She is the only one who offered a seat to a tired old woman. Ethan stood, eyes cold. Security, he said. Vanessa screamed as she was dragged away. Then Ethan faced Amara. My mother hates everyone, he said. If she trusts you, I do. A new battlefield. Amara's title changed, not a promotion, a transformation. She became executive liaison, the only person allowed to enter Ethan's office unannounced. The hatred didn't stop. It evolved. Executives tested her, set traps, waited for her to fail. She didn't. She stayed late, learned faster, saw what others missed. One night, Ethan watched her work. You see cracks, he said quietly. My mother taught me, Amara replied. Ethan smiled. Dangerously. The gala. The invitation arrived 3 weeks later, the Orion Apex Gala. Madame Sun smiled. You are the shield, she told Amara. The ballroom glittered. When Ethan descended the stairs, the room froze. He went straight to Amara. Watch the man in gray, he whispered. She did. She noticed the shaking waiter, the smell. Bitter almonds. No! Amara knocked the spoon away. Chaos erupted. Assassination stopped. That night in the penthouse, Ethan said, You saved my life. I couldn't let them hurt you, Amara replied. He kissed her, not as a CEO, but as a man who had finally been seen. 6 months later, the building changed. Fear gone, snakes removed. Madame Sun ran internal audits like a war. Amara wore a white power suit. A diamond burned on her finger. Ethan pulled her close. Lunch first, Madame Sun said. I brought stew. Amara laughed. The invisible woman had become untouchable, and the empire would never be the same.